Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Our show is called Players Prep. My name is Brad Hopkins alongside Jared Morse. We're usually joined by Maurice Patton, but just not this week. Last week, we got a chance to catch up with Hendersonville Commandos coach Bruce Hatfield. They lost a tough game against the Riverdale Warriors on the road. And I tell you what, man, you talk about a game of high offenses. It was 39-36 was the score, 3 points. There's a lot of offense in that ball game, Jared.
A lot of points scored, a lot of them coming from the Riverdale quarterback, Cortland Owens. He was named Player of the Week, and he was 16 of 30, 274 yards. It was a big upset for Riverdale, and they played unbelievable. And that kid just throwing the ball all over the place, getting yards, getting touchdowns, just playing really, really well.
We're actually talking about the triple option the Hendersonville runs. They, as a matter of fact, had like 5 guys that actually scored touchdowns. I think that Austin Bryant was the guy that scored a touchdown for them. If I'm right, Cameron Turner was a guy. Jarquez Wardlow was the guy that scored a touchdown. They had a lot of guys that contributed, but Marquez Cantrell was a guy that on the night for 7 touches. He had 7 catches for about 175 yards and a couple of touches. That was big for them, but they do fall a little bit short. But there are some other performances that took place in Week 5 that we should at least give some mention to, right? Are there any pace setters in your opinion that were worthy of that?
I've got a couple of pace setters, and not necessarily for their performances last week, but for their offers that they got. We had Pearl Cone running back Keyshawn Vaughn and wide receiver / cornerback Rontavious Groves both pick up offers from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And Vaughn also got an offer from Duke. He's got 17 offers, including one from Vanderbilt. They're at 3-1 right now, and both players also have offers to Kentucky. So those are 2 big players in Class 3A for Middle Tennessee that are playing really, really well and picking up a lot of offers, making a lot of noise in high school right now.
Yeah, you know what? I did have a pace setter. NBA's quarterback Cole Uviard. He's the guy that against BA. He had 5 touchdowns. Yeah, and I like the diversity of a guy that can actually be a playmaker with the ball in his hands as well as being an effective passer. You kind of gotta like that. And I think that when you look at good college programs, that's kind of who they're gravitating towards. They want those big play potential guys, the ones that can actually have the discipline to be able to run it and throw it as well. So there are a lot of defenses actually that held the task last week. But for the most part, that was a pretty good game that we saw up against Riverdale. Another one undefeated against Hendersonville, which is another undefeated. And Bruce definitely had his kids ready, but they just fell a little bit short.
Absolutely, and like you said, getting the ball into the hands of a playmaker is something that is funneling down from the NFL into college. Now high school sports are just looking to make sure to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers, their best athletes on the team, and then the other role players, as long as they do their job, you've got that one horse that carries the team and has the team's best interest.
Absolutely. And like we said, our show is called Players Prep. I am Brad Hopkins. He's Jared Morse. And the ways that you can follow us, tell people how they can get a hold of us on social media, Jared.
The Facebook page right now is up and running. We've got articles on there that we post. We've got pictures hopefully coming from you, and we'll be posting stuff ourselves. Just find us on Facebook. It's just Players Prep on Facebook, and go and like the page and then follow everything. We're going to have articles, we're going to have pictures, we're going to have maybe some videos, anything you want on there, and anything you want to post once you like it, feel free to.
Absolutely. Hey, and when we come back, we're going to continue our show, Players Prep, with our coaches from our Up-Week contest. The Ravenwood Raptors are going to take on the Centennial Cougars, so we'll have coaches Will Hester and Brian Rector on the show. And we are brought to you by Global Motorsport. They got 5 locations all over Nashville, so if you don't have your vehicle purchase nailed down, if you're looking for a quality vehicle from some quality people, you need to go see our friends at Global Motorsport. Check them out online at globalmotorsport.com. So when we return for Players Prep, we'll talk with Coach Will Hester and Brian Rector, so don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Talkopolis programming is sponsored in part by the Vein Center, now celebrating 10 years service in Nashville, Tennessee.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Players Prep is the show. I am Brad Hopkins alongside Jared Morse, and as promised, the coach of the Ravenwood Raptors, if I'm correct. Am I right, Coach? I'm sorry if I butchered your name. That's absolutely terrible.
No, absolutely, Brad. You're good, man.
Yeah, the Ravenwood Raptors. Will Hester is joining us, and he has a very, very big game coming up against Centennial. The Cougars are also undefeated. Am I correct when I said if I'm saying that this is the first time that both of your teams have been ranked number 1 and number 2 going up against each other in the state? Am I right when I say that?
I mean, I would think that's probably definitely the case. This is the first time that Ravenwood's been 5-0 in the regular season. And I would say that Centennial's on the best start in their school's history as well.
Coach, you were able to have one off week, one less game than Centennial. Talk about how important that was for your players to get that rest no matter when it came, and talk about what you have to do to stop this Centennial offense.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to do a wonderful job of being gap sound and tackling the football. Deion Sanders and Terrell Dotson are both massive running backs, big guys that run well. They're fast and big, so that's a bad combination. But the bad part is they've got Emmanuel Hall on the outside, who's an athletic and a Missouri committed wide receiver, so he's going to challenge us down the field as well. So hopefully the extra time we're able to get to work on fundamentals during the bye week and able to rest up and heal up will be an advantage for us.
Coach, is it about the disciplines that you can actually instill in your team that give you a leg up, or is it really just about the talent? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's both. I mean, it's definitely a lot about the Jimmies and Joes, and that's the talent portion of it. But, I mean, they have to be disciplined. They have to know what's going on. We play a lot of teams that, have great players, but those guys don't play together, don't play as a unit, and are out there for individual accolades and doing their own thing, and they don't participate as well. So, we think that there's a lot to the discipline piece, and, our guys have been having to get up at 5:30 in the morning for winter workouts for the past 2 years, and they kind of wear that as a badge of honor that they've grinded it harder than most teams, and they wear it well.
Coach, we mentioned that both these teams are undefeated, and talk about how important it is for you to be playing this big game at home instead of on the road.
Well, I mean, I think it's all about your routine. Actually, when we're on the road, we probably have a more buttoned-up tight routine than we do when we're at home, but I do think it's definitely an advantage to play in front of your home crowd and your home fans and be able to dress at your own locker and do all those kind of things. So we're definitely excited to be hosting a game here. It's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere. I mean, these schools are probably less than 2 miles apart as the crow flies, and we expect it to be a packed house, and you're going to have to get here early if you want to see the Ravenwood Centennial game Friday night. I
know, that's right. We're talking with Coach Will Hester from the Ravenwood Raptors, and last year it was a 3-point difference between you two, and you were on the road last year. Is there any revenge factor going into this game, or do you guys even think about stuff like that?
I mean, maybe that's something that they're using, but, in high school football, teams are so different from year to year, it's hard to be much of a revenge factor. They're a great football team, and we feel like we've got a good team over here as well. And this is going to put whoever wins the game kind of up toward the top of the district and give them a kind of a leg up as far as playoff seeding would go. So there's a lot at stake and definitely a lot of bragging rights.
Coach, you mentioned the playoffs. How hard is it for your kids to not already kind of start thinking about the playoffs, being 5-0? I know this is a big game, but after this game, you got the playoffs right around the corner. How tough is it to make sure they stay on task and make sure they take care of the regular season before they start worrying about the postseason?
Well, one of our goals as a team this year was to repeat as district champs. We were lucky enough to win District 11 AAA last year, and a lot of these guys were juniors and contributors on that team, and they want to continue that and kind of bring that trophy back to the school, if you will. And so we can't look ahead toward the playoffs if that's our goal, and right now that's our goal, and our kids are excited about the opportunity to play in Centennial on Friday night to take one more step toward that.
We're talking with Coach Will Hester here from the Ravenwood Raptors, and as a matter of fact, the best record his school has ever had as they beat Overton, I think it was a couple of Fridays ago. Great record. Congratulations, Coach, and we wish you lots of luck in your upcoming game up against Centennial.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, that's Coach Will Hester right there. When we come back, we'll catch up with the coach of the Centennial Cougars, Brian Rector, right here on Players Prep. I'm Brad Hopkins. He is Jared Morse, and we are brought to you by Global Motorsports. Stick around.
Talkopolis programming is sponsored in part by the Center for Advanced Dentistry, now serving the greater Nashville area.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our show is called Players Prep, and we are brought to you by Global Motorsport. If you're looking for a vehicle, there's the only place in town to go. They've got 5 convenient locations for you. Check them out at globalmotorsport.com to find out exactly where you need to go to get your next vehicle purchase. Now, we're on to part number 2 of our coaches' discussion. We have Brian Rector from the Centennial Cougars on the line with us. He's joining us to talk about their upcoming game against another undefeated team. That would be the Ravenwood Raptors. Coach, big game coming up, the battle of 2 undefeateds. Do you guys put any more stock in the fact that you're going up against an undefeated team as you would a team that's, say, 0-5?
I don't think so. I mean, we recognize the fact that it is the toughest opponent that we have faced to date. But the goal each week has been, pretty simple and focused, is just to try to go undefeated that week. So I think we all know, not to sound too cliche-ish, but the records are out the window no matter what they are this week. And we have 2 good football teams that are well coached, and have a lot of great effort kids out there and a couple of superstars actually, and it should be a really nice environment.
Coach, you had a great win at Mount Juliet last week. Talk about going on the road again to Ravenwood. Very hostile environment for your kids to play in, and a very big game as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you can exactly call us road warriors at this point. I mean, we are literally like 2.5 miles away. So I don't know that one will factor in too much into the drama of this game, but I really have to say how proud I am of our student body and our fan base for traveling to Mount Juliet. Obviously, they're going to travel to Ravenwood, but Mount Juliet's not real close, and for those guys to show up the way they did for Centennial, for our football team, that was really cool. So I'm really proud of them.
Coach Richter, 39-10 was the outcome of the game last week that Jared was talking about against Mount Juliet. Would it have been better maybe to have a tougher contest going into what you know is going to be a tough contest, or will those guys still be focused regardless of the competition?
Yeah, I think the focus kind of just it resets itself every Saturday, Sunday, and especially when you get into Monday, it really does. And that's the ebb and flow of the weeks. There's some teams that we played that we have been pretty down this year, and it's really tough to keep them focused on those weeks more than anything else. The tougher the opponents get, the better I've seen our kids react, at least in practice throughout the week. And so we're hoping to continue that trend this Friday night.
Coach, what are you seeing in practice as one of the things that you're looking for this game against a tough opponent like Ravenwood?
Well, to me, the tougher games come down to little things, hand placement, the foot placement of your eyes. They come down to things like a good snap on a special team, the right protection on a special team, covering kicks. So to me, it really does come down to the very little things that the maybe uneducated observer wouldn't normally think about, and I would almost bet you that that's what this one will come down to in the end.
Coach Rector, 23 carries for 180 yards and a couple of touchdowns for Deion Sanders. Is it safe to say that that's a guy that you pretty much leaned on for the season this year?
Well, I'd say that it's safe to say that Deion has certainly done us well. That's for sure. We've leaned on him, but we've also leaned on those 5 and 6 dudes in front of him that are blocking every Friday night. And that has been the biggest difference. Tom Schuman's our O-line coach, and he really has those guys coached up well. And they seem to be getting a little better every single week. And we've created a little bit of depth on the O-line, which has been big for us. And, having some consistency up there is huge, but that's really what Deion is too. He's a very consistent back. He can do a lot, but it's not as if he's just amazing with this one thing or another. He's just really good at it all.
Coach, talk about the defensive side of the ball and how important it is for your defense to throw up another number, like only giving up 10 points like you did last week against the high-powered offense.
Well, I think, Brad, that's the key really to the season is that we just have given up way fewer yards per carry. We've given up way fewer, passes per carry, way fewer first downs. And overall, we've just had a better defense. And I think anybody that knows football will tell you that if you've got a good defense, you got a chance in every game. Obviously, our guys are going to have to play very well this week for us to have a good chance.
Well, to wrap it up, Coach, I know that you guys pretty much practice during the week. You go over the X's and O's. You make sure your bodies are right. But how much wind does an undefeated season actually put in the sails of your kids for the confidence as they go into games like this?
Well, you said it. We haven't stubbed our toe yet. We've come close. And, truth be told, that can work in both directions. But this particular group that we have, they seem to be handling it very well. They seem to be mature. They seem to be, to me, as a head coach, I trust them. And I believe they trust each other. And at the end of the day, when they follow the plan that we give them, and, you end up, of course, undefeated, at least at this point, that has to give the kids confidence. I don't think that they feel like there's a moment yet in which they can't succeed. It doesn't mean we always do, but their confidence level, I think, is exactly where it needs to be. Confident without being cocky, that's for sure.
Coach, you've been great, and we wish you a lot of luck. We know it's going to be a hard contest, but we know you'll have your boys ready to play.
Guys, thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. That was Coach Brian Rector from Centennial Cougars there joining us. And when we come back, we'll talk more about not only this game, but some other top contests that are going to be taking place here in the Middle Tennessee area. But, tell us, Jared, how people can actually follow us and stuff on the social media.
The Facebook page we got is Players Prep. It's very easy. Just type in Players Prep, and you can go like us on the Facebook page. We're going to have stuff on there, videos. We're going to have the shows. We're going to have high school updates before the games coming up in the week. So go to the Players Prep Facebook page, like the Facebook page. There's going to be a lot of good stuff on there from Brad, myself, and from Maurice every single week for you to go like and watch and read.
Absolutely. So when we come back, we'll have more conversation about the high school sports that you want to listen to. This is Players Prep, brought to you by Global Motorsport. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Players Prep is our show. I'm Brad Hopkins alongside Jared Morse, and we are brought to you by Global Motorsport. Check them out at globalmotorsport.com. They've got 5 locations throughout the Middle Tennessee area to give you your vehicle needs. I'm telling you what, they've got some bad cars down there too, Jared. I bought a couple of vehicles from them too, and you could actually need an upgrade from that old Monte Carlo you've been driving too.
Don't hate on my car.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Don't hate on my car.
Now, we kind of previewed, and actually thank you for both coaches, Will Hester and Brian Rector, for joining us just a few minutes ago. But we do have some other games to preview because there are a couple of Thursday night tilts that we have to mention. Innsworth will be on the road against NBA. It's not that far a drive, just up the street. That's at 6 o'clock on Thursday, as well as White House taking on White House Heritage, which will also be at 6 o'clock on Thursday. But we've got a couple of games that we should think you should pay attention to. Jared, what's your game that you think people should be watching first off?
Game of the week was pretty easy for me this week. You got Baylor versus McCallie, number 1 versus number 2, both undefeated, both in Division 2A, and this is for some bragging rights. These are 2 very big schools. I grew up in Alabama, and I've even heard of these schools all the way in Alabama. That's how big they are. A lot of big players coming out of these schools. And I don't know if it has ever been number 1 versus number 2, and even the coaches don't know if it's ever been number 1 versus number 2 in an undefeated brawl like this. And McCallie, 6-0, having knocked off Bowling Green and Innsworth in the last 2 weeks, and they were both undefeated. And Baylor actually coming off of a bye week, so they're going to have some rest before this game. So it's going to be a really, really good one to watch. A lot of great players, a lot of great football being played right now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that actually segues into my game of the week, which is the one I just talked about, Innsworth versus the NBA. Now, this is a big game, too, because the game that you just talked about, McCallie playing Innsworth at McCallie last week, was just, it's not the kind of game that Innsworth fans are used to dealing with, but it was a dirt road whooping, if you will. And of course, Innsworth, how can they rebound coming off of such a lopsided loss? Can they, get themselves righted to play against, which is, one of their hated rivalries, for lack of a better word, in NBA. Obviously schools that are very close to each other. The kids, they know one another. It's very close in competition. So kind of like the Baylor-McCallie contest, where they're both Chattanooga schools, both of these schools in the same wheelhouse have very much familiarity with each other, and it's going to be a tough contest. And for that Baylor-McCallie game, if I'm correct, I did hear that the Baylor kids are actually being bussed into the McCallie game. So they're going to have a presence, a strong presence on that visitors bench. And I was on the visitors bench last week, and they're not comfortable seats over there either. So anyway, that's a great.
Absolutely.
So, I'm sure people want to know how they can follow us, how they can keep connected with the show, because this show features so many programs that, feature your kids. So, tell people, Jared, how they can actually keep up with us on Facebook.
We've got a Facebook page, Players Prep. It's very easy. Like I said, just search Players Prep on Facebook, and there's an article up about that McCallie-Baylor game right now that we just talked about. So if you want to read that full little breakdown of the Baylor-McCallie game, go find it on there. And if you have articles that you think people would like to read about your high school and other high school sports that are going on around the state, you go ahead and post it on there. And me and Brad and Maurice are going to be posting stuff as well, videos, photos, links to articles that you want to read about your high school and other high schools. So the Facebook page is going to have all kinds of stuff on it. Just go and like it and keep track of it.
Absolutely. So we'll have our weekly updates on our show, so stick around. Players Prep is going to be here to stay, fellas. Maurice Patton will be joining us next week, so we'll have more of our high school action and coverage for you then. So we are brought to you by Global Motorsport. Remember our 5 locations in and around town. If you don't know where they are, go to globalmotorsport.com, and I'm sure they'll fill you in exactly what you need when you're looking for your next vehicle. So for Jared Morse, I am Brad Hopkins, and for Maurice Patton, this is Players Prep, and we'll see you next week. Have a good week.